All right, so with the release of 4.0 coming out later this week, we're going to go ahead and talk about who, in terms of value wise, for the free to play characters, when it comes to just initially getting the characters, getting their E1s, and then getting their E2s. Here, we're going to be talking about just the characters in of themselves, and we're going to go along the line of release. And just so you are aware, we're going to be going over how they are in terms of team-wise, what they do, competition they also face from other characters who kind of share a similar role, and whether or not getting the first copy of said character is actually going to be worth it. And so we're going to be starting off with Jingyuan. Now, Jingyuan initially upon his release was arguably the best character in the game, right? But with further release DPS characters, whether that even honestly be hunt characters or even destruction characters and even erudition characters, and then now obviously with remembrance, Jingyuan has actually fallen off quite a bit. Now, he had some of a revitalization when it came to the release of Pure Fiction, but because of how the current meta works in terms of HP scaling for enemies and then just raw damage numbers for the specific character, Jingyuan has actually fallen off quite a bit. And I would say if it is a character that you don't have, and this is just going to go for all the characters, if you want a new character just for collection purposes, obviously get the character that you want to get for the collection purposes. But when it comes to the actual character himself, he's really not that great. Now, moving on to Kafka. Now, Kafka has already gotten her Nova Flame buff, and she is by far better than what she initially was upon her release. Now, remember, upon her release, the Dot team consisted of just her as the only 5-star character, and then you would have maybe Luca, you would have Gwenifin on the team, and maybe Sampo on the team, and that was the core of the Dot team. And then when Black Swan initially came out, that she kind of slotted into that spot. But because Kafka got the Nova Flame, and also in conjunction with the release of Hysolins, Kafka has actually gotten really good even just at E0. And honestly, I would say she is A tier. Now, the reason why she's an A tier, not S tier, is because of the fact that you really want to have Hysolins on the team with Kafka to really get the full damage output with Kafka herself. Next up is going to be Imbibitor Lune Danhong. And same thing like Jingyuan, is that when Danhong first came out, he was like the best DPS character in the game. Granted, that was very short-lived with the release of the next character we're going to be talking about, Jing Liu, but Danhong was very good on his release, and he has not gotten a buff yet. But I'm actually going to put him below Jingyuan, and the reasoning for this is his SP, like, hungry nature that he is with his enhanced skill, wanting to consume as many skill points as possible to further boost his damage. That is his main premise. And upon his release, the damage was great, but now it's really not that fantastic anymore because you have characters who have higher damage numbers that could actually possibly not even consume skill points. I mean, you look at the Finon, right? Look at Finon, look at, heck, even Acheron, right? In terms of raw damage numbers, they do more damage, while also saving more skill points for your harmony characters, your healers, your preservation characters. So that's why I think Imbibitor Lune actually falls off quite a bit when it comes to that just in and of itself. Jing Liu, another character who has gotten a Nova Flame buff, and I'm very glad she did, although saying that, I actually have not used her since she's gotten her Nova Flame buff, even though she was my favorite character upon release. And she still aesthetically is probably my favorite character. But something that they did is that they converted her overall maximum damage capabilities behind her max HP. And I actually do think this is a huge plus instead of just, crit rate, crit damage, and attack. Having it locked behind her HP, I think, is fantastic because of the synergy she has with someone like Hyacinth and Huahua even, because of the fact that you're able to not only boost damage, but you're able to heal attacks because she wants to take HP away from herself and from her teammates. So you pair that up with, like I said, Heiselins or Huahua, able to not only provide constant healing for her and for the teammates because she takes that HP away from the teammates, but with Huahua, you're also able to generate attack buffs for her while also being able to increase her energy regeneration so you can get more ultimates off, because that's really how you get to the pinnacle of her damage with her enhanced skill with her Sigility buffs. And I'm actually going to put her into B tier. I do think she's better than these two characters, but not quite on the Kafka level. Now, moving on to Sparkle, who's also going to be getting a Nova Flame buff, and she is just like bonkers good. No, like Sparkle is very, very, very strong. Yeah, she's fallen off a little bit in terms of her placement along with other Harmony characters. There's other Harmony characters and other supporting type characters who do more and provide a lot for the team, but with Sparkle's Nova Flame buff, like for example, I'll just say one thing, like getting 6 skill points is very good. Also with the fact that she's going to have extremely good synergy with Sparksy that's going to be coming out, but also because of her just raw number buffs that she's going to be getting is fantastic for hyper carries that really need Harmony characters to help boost them, i.e. like Finon really comes to mind, and other future hypercarry characters. So I do think she is the best pick when it comes to your free selector. Moving on to Acheron now, and Acheron is the spitting child of power creep, good and bad when it comes to Honkai Star Rail, because of the fact that when she initially first came out, she was by far the best damage dealing character by a large margin. However, now where we are at, she has fallen completely out of like the top damage dealing teams. You could have like an E6, you might argue, but in terms of like comparison, one-to-one character, whether that be E2, E4, or even E6, like if you do a one-to-one comparison between her and other main damage dealing characters, she has fallen off significantly. And because of the fact that she needs to have other Nihility characters. Even at her E2, which provides one less requirement for her max, stacks for her ultimate, you still need another Nihility character on the team. And because of the direction that Hoyo is going with new paths being released, the likelihood of getting a new brand good Nihility character falls a little bit to the wayside until we actually get to that path in the story. But saying that, Acheron still does incredible damage if you can play her right with the proper team setups. So like she falls in this B to C tier with a little bit of a caveat that you have the actual team set up for her. So I'm just going to put her into B. Now, another character who was very good and arguably the best preservation / sustain character in the game is Adventurine. And Adventurine was mainly competing with Huahua in terms of keeping teams alive. Like upon his release, if you had a good account, you had Adventurine for one team and then you had Huahua for another team to keep your team like survivable for end game content. But the issue now is that he doesn't have a Nova Flame buff. He should be getting one pretty soon, but he's in direct comparison and competition with the new Danhong PT. And I do think PT Danhong is by far a better unit, being able to provide more for the team with an attack bonus instead of just raw shield, which Aventurine does. Yes, he is able to be slotted into a follow-up attack team and have good synergy, but that's also another team that is very, very much to the wayside, and it really hinders him as a character. If you don't have, let's say, another preservation or sustain character, I do think he's actually very valuable. But if you do have characters that fit that mold, i.e. a Huahua, i.e. a Danhong PT, i.e. a Hyacinth, he's just not worth it. And I do think he falls down to C tier. And that is where I'm going to be putting him. Now, when it comes to Eidolons, which ones are going to be the most valuable for the character to help them boost even further with like E1? Well, honestly, you're looking at this exact same list. Actually, I'm just going to put Kafka up there. If you can get Kafka your E1, she's instantly like an S tier character because the team that she runs on with Dot and having the damage amplification for said Dot components. And I'm just gonna put that there for her. Moving over to Imbibiter Lune, honestly, it's the same thing. Like I said, the E1s for these characters, they just slot in exactly where the character is at, simply because of the fact of where the meta trajectory is going with these characters. Sparkle is god tier. She's really good. Okay, so I guess Kafka is Eidolon is a little bit better and more valuable than the actual character herself, but that makes sense because of the fact, like I said, the team she runs on, and you're able to get more damage off with Kafka with Dot teams, especially with the Hycelin's buff that is going to be coming out. So this is where I think I gotta get Acheron's Eidolon. But this is where I think the E1s are at in terms of value wise. And I'm just going to leave it there. I was initially thinking about doing E2, but honestly, for any of these characters, you really shouldn't be targeting E2, especially the older characters, until we actually get confirmation for their Nova Flames. Sparkle and Kafka, honestly, their E1s are really good. Sparkle's E2, though, is like, where is she? Sparkle's E2 is a complete game changer for any DPS character, having extreme damage amplification buffs for her. And let's go ahead and just look at that real quick if I can find. Let's actually sort it by Harmony and go to Sparkle, and then just jump down to her E2, because like I said, it is an absolute game changer. So we can see here that like characters with a Cypher having a 40% attack increase. That alone is incredible. Granted, you do get a speed increase for Sparkle, which is very good. However, the ultimate recovers one more skill point, and the talent additionally increases the max skill points by one. Like, oh, that's 4. I'm sorry, 2. There we go. Each stack of the talent's effect additionally reduces enemy targets' defense by 10%. Like, that's absolutely broken E2. And I do think that this is a caveat when it comes to the E2s. Like I said, it kind of ignore the other E2s all entirely. But if you have the opportunity to get E2 Sparkle, it is 100% worth it and will absolutely change how your Elation team is going to be with the initial release of 4.0 with Yao Guang and with Sparksy, along with an E2 Sparkle. But your other main damage DPS characters like Finon is just going to be absolutely broken and busted.